Welcome, Ministry
What's up,
Matters. Well, really, Mike and I are introing our Ministry Matters show. Mike and I did this show about 2 months ago.
It's a little bit back, yeah. I don't know. This year's going by so fast.
No, Mike, it really has. So I'm just here on my phone, getting ready to post our show. So if you're out there, please like it, share it,
leave a review.
Yeah, Mike, we got talking about doing
we
that.
Get that podcast link up, right?
Yeah. So if you're out there, some of you may be living in our county, some of you may be living in another state, another country, whatever. But we have a new friend in Mike Boudreaux. And Mike Boudreaux is the sheriff for Tulare County. And that's pretty cool because it makes him one of the largest sheriffs in the county. Yeah, Tulare County is huge. But he came on our show because he's running for Congress. It's the seat that Kevin McCarthy vacated early.
Yeah.
And so they have a kind of a confusion thing. Like, I'm still confused about it.
Tom, I don't know. I saw something of her polling like yesterday or Friday. I was like, what? Who's voting for what now? What's going on?
It's weird because
but it was just at like the county building or like, I don't know. It was weird.
Well, it's Kevin McCarthy with SB 20 vacated it. And so he has a term that finishes in December of 2024. Yep. So somebody has to fill that, and they had a race for that. And Vince Fong got the majority of the vote, but only 40%. And Mike Boudreaux, I think, got 26. Yeah. And so then they had another vote for this position, but for January of 2025 to 2029.
Yeah, whatever the term is. Yeah.
Man, that sounds like a long time. So
they're just keep voting over and over and over and over.
But these two guys, Mike and I like them both. Vince is I've been in assemblyman for quite a few years, I think over 8. And Mike Boudreaux has been the Tulare County Sheriff, which is an elected position for over a decade. Right. So they're running, and they're both Republicans. So we had the pleasure of having Mike Boudreaux on 3 shows. Tonight will be the 3rd, and it's called Ministry Matters. So Ministry Matters involves a position of somebody where their voice is loudest. And in Mike Boudreaux's life, it's really running for Congress.
It is, and being sheriff.
And being sheriff. So I there again, it's one of those things that if you want to see a believer that really lays it out there, you want to watch all 3 of these shows. Because last week we did the one with John Rizzo, Dr. Rizzo, and it was on Mentality Unleashed. But we want to thank our friends out there that provide hope in a cup, 1 cup of coffee at a time, for a disenfranchised community group called the Emancipated Foster.
Yeah. Randy's doing a great job.
Yeah, Randy's doing a great job. We got a lot of news coming up for Randy, and his company is growing organically.
They are. Yeah. Excited to see that.
Yeah, me
Absolutely.
too. Yeah, he's got a great product, and he teaches these kids how to brew coffee. They roast beans, and then they learn how to run retail. So they really get a life skill. And it provides housing for them, because emancipated foster kids, if you don't know it, are the foster children that turn 18, and then the system doesn't provide any money anymore. So a lot of them find themselves out. They're on the streets. They become homeless, become victims of child trafficking. They become victims of drug addiction and sometimes suicide. So, Randy, you are providing hope in a cup with Covenant Ministries, and you got somebody out there, a friend of yours,
unofficial friend, but hey, appreciate Rob out there with Blockworks. He's doing a fantastic job keeping everybody's computers and work safe, and does a lot of work with a lot of my friends. So. I just want to thank Rob for all of his support.
They keep us safe.
They keep us safe. They keep us safe and keep all of our clients safe. And they support a lot of military, a lot of nonprofits, a lot of things that you and I are involved with. They have similar things they're involved with as well.
Well, Mike, I think that's something that your wife LaDavie was brilliant on when she came up with the 1 Thessalonians 5:11, where we want to look at fellow believers that are basically doing some good work and helping others do good work. They're continuing. It's a tough fight out there. It's a tough fight out there right now. If you don't believe it, I mean, just go out and watch the news cycle. Christians get beat up as much as any other faith out there. And actually people think
probably more so.
They think because Jesus was very forgiving that they can kick people around. And I'm not sure if that's really true anymore, Mike.
No.
Don't kick us around. So, hey, we're going to roll for you guys. Hope you enjoy it. Sit back out there. And if you vote, make sure you vote for somebody that's doing the work that you want to see done.
That's right.
Matters. We're here today with two mics. We got
There's
our friend
5.
Mike
Yeah.
Boudreaux.
Oh, you did good.
And he's got a sign that says Mike, and he's running for Congress.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, you don't want to miss our lunch break session or episode with Sheriff Boudreaux, because he talks about a lot of his faith in that. And that's something that that you don't see in the profession. But with this sheriff, you're going to get a double deal. You're going to get somebody trained and acknowledged and
Knows the Lord.
knows the Lord Jesus Christ and follows him. So I love it, Mike.
right.
We got a sponsor that you're
Yeah,
going to.
we do. We got Covenant Coffee. Randy Martin does a phenomenal job with Covenant Coffee, but I don't know if you know this, Mike, much about Covenant, but they started this organization to help, because Randy had been running group homes for several years. So Randy started this Covenant Coffee as a means to help promote these kids that were aging out, the emancipated foster youth. Because you probably are very well aware of what goes on with the emancipated foster youth and the statistics there and all of those things.
Yeah.
Suicides and drugs and
Crime
and everything else. He wanted to give them an opportunity to get out, so he started this coffee shop to teach them life skills and job skills.
Love it.
And they have phenomenal coffee. Also, on top of the fact you got to taste some of it.
I love it. Good.
And so you guys go check out Covenant Coffee, covenantcoffee.org, and we'll have that address up on the screen for you guys to go check it out.
And we're going to jump right in because, Mike, I love it. You've been in law enforcement for 39 years?
38.
38 years. And you've dedicated your life to this because your dad was an influence. And I tell you fathers out there that you can't give away your rights or your responsibility. And you talked about how your dad, you wanted to be like your dad.
I did.
And if you're out there and you're raising young men, you have another important factor. And if you have young daughters, you got to be praying for the guy raising a young man, because he will be your son-in-law one day.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I used to think that you didn't have to train them, and I've got a wonderful son-in-law, Danny, but I've had to jump in to help him a
I
little
got
bit.
both sides of that coin, Tom.
You do. So there again, if you're out there, you got to realize parenting's important, but also picking a career where you can start as a 19-year-old deputy sheriff. And I think what you said, Mike, is that you went through each position, boots on the ground.
Yep.
So now, as the top cop, so I'm going to settle this.
Sure.
Every time I'm around Donnie Youngblood and Cindy,
Donnie's a friend of mine.
and Cindy Zimmer, they talk about who's really in charge.
Yeah. It's a sheriff.
And I think at the end, Donnie wins because he says, "I sign your CCW." So,
That's right. Yeah. Well, and the DA can't prosecute anything unless the sheriff investigates.
oh, it's just, I just hear them.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
have this
I'm gonna have to side with Donnie Youngblood. Being the sheriff of Tulare County, Donnie's a good friend of mine.
Donnie's
a
an
great
amazing
guy.
Donnie,
And-
welcome
Well, you
to
guys
our show,
probably
though.
do a lot of work together.
We
too,
work
right?
together. We call each other. His agency will help mine. Our agencies work very closely together. Our ag units are very, very close. And so we know that criminals don't stay in one county or the other. They go back and forth.
Right. Why would they?
So we work with Donnie and his crew quite regularly.
I love that. So we're going to talk about on our show episode, Ministry Matters. The Bible says, "Out of the abundance of our heart, our mouth speaks." And so, as you're coming through your 38th year in law enforcement, you're now taking on a new challenge.
Yeah.
Is this where your voice is the loudest? But I do believe your voice is also loud as being a parent. I heard you say that before the show. And how that priority, sometimes you have to turn off one switch and turn on the other.
That's true.
So tell us how you do that. I mean, because you got a tough job. You just took a tough call just now on set. I mean, you got a lot of responsibilities, and you're able to turn things on and off. And you're a vested father, and you're now running for Congress.
Yeah.
And you're also now still the sheriff of Tulare County. How does your voice and how did you walk through these callings in your life?
Well, that's a lot to unpack right
Well, it is.
It's like 10 questions rolled into
well,
one.
what
right?
it is his voice is very impactful in all of them.
Right.
Yeah. So where let me tell you where we go to. You know, I have been raised to come through different experiences, even as a small child. And I think God knows what our future and our destiny hold, even though we don't. And so I've been prepared through the course of my career, not realizing that I would be stepping into the potential of a congressional seat. I didn't even was running for Congress.
I love that
40
story.
days ago. And
Tell us that story.
Yeah, well, I mean, so what happened is that Kevin McCarthy had stepped down. Yeah. Initially, he had decided he was going to run. He did what's called pulling papers, which means that's an intent to run. So we all in the political world thought, oh, well, Kevin's going to run again, and that's it. You know, Kevin's going to win. And, you know, we like his work. And so what happened is we all learned that he was not going to run, which means you have a 5-day window to...
Oh, I didn't know that.
You have a 5-day window to decide. And I can tell you that I waited till 4:15 on the final day. And what happened is there was a political article that came out, and they listed the top 10 potential top-tier candidates. You know, they're guessing who is going to be the one who potentially runs for this office. And so I was fortunate enough to be listed in the top 10 as number 9. Number 9. I told my wife
that's the competitive side now.
Yeah, so now I'm the sheriff. I'm doing my thing. I'm talking to my wife, and I go, hey, that's flattering. They had listed me in the top 9. Never really thought two giggles about it, and I tell this story often. I still didn't think that I was running for a congressional seat or McCarthy spot, but I started getting phone calls from the other people within the article. So I get a phone call from many people. There was Shannon Grove was listed in that story. Vince Vaughn was listed in that story. Jim Patterson, Nathan Magsig, Connie Conway, Devin Mathis, and it goes all the way down. It goes all the way down to me. But I start having conversations with all of these people, and I talked to Jim Patterson out of Fresno. He says, hey, look, I'm later in life, and this is not something I want to do. Nathan Magsig called me and said, look, if you run, you have my endorsement. I was encouraged by Shannon Grove at the time to run as well.
Did she tell you why she didn't?
Why she didn't what? No, that's
can I tell you why she didn't?
I know why she didn't.
She's a grandmother.
Yeah, but that's for you to tell the story.
Yeah,
Shannon's a very good friend of mine.
Shannon confessed to us that she didn't run because God told her she's got a bigger role as being a grandmother. And I respect that. And we're going to have Shannon on the show.
Shannon's fantastic.
Oh, I love that woman.
Person. And so as we start getting into this, Vince Vaughn had put out an article saying that, I'd talked to him too. He says, look, I'm not running and we're going to stay and start a family. And he put out a news media article that said, hey, we're staying home. We're going to stay in the assembly. We're going to stay in the state, and we're not running for Congress. So now, as all these notices are going out, people are calling me. Mike, we're going to encourage you to do this. We think this is something you should consider. So my wife and I went into some serious prayer. My dad went into prayer.
Oh, yeah. Now he's pounding on heaven.
Yeah. Well, now it's, God, we talked about discernment in the other show, and we talk about discernment here. And it's like, God, I really would really like a nudge here to tell me what I'm supposed to do.
Now, isn't that called confirmation?
Well, what happens in the storyline is that I, in fact, learned that Vince can't run. The Secretary of State says he can't run. There's some legal battles in that regard. And I thought, well, let me go backwards. My dad said, hey, look, if you're supposed to run, it's going to be very clear to you.
Amen. I love it. Godly influence. Huge.
And so I'm there on the final day, and I just have peace. I have peace. My wife had the joy of the Lord fall over her that day. She was giggling and laughing, and she goes, Michael, I don't understand it. I got the joy of the Lord on me.
Isn't it refreshing to have your one flesh
with you? She prayed for me today because I had a bit of a discouraging day only because we had law enforcement stuff happening, as you heard one of the stories that come through, offset. But so on the final day, at 4:00 in the afternoon, I just have this peace. And I told my wife, I said, I think I'm supposed to do this. And so we did. I walked out of there, wasn't nervous, wasn't anxious, haven't been anxious since. Now, does that mean that I win the race? No, that's not what it means. And I don't want people to have me remotely imply that. But what it does mean is that I was obedient. Oh, my. And am I going to impact other lives by who I come in contact with? Is it something that I move forward in? I don't have that answer. But what I have the answer to is that I was obedient with the peace of God that fell on me, that this is what I was supposed to do.
The Bible says that God will give us the peace that rules our heart.
Yeah.
And that's what you had. You had peace that surpassed all understanding.
Supernatural.
Your wife had peace. All I do. That is such a true point. If you're out there, if you don't have a faith system, you need one. I'm going to encourage you to go with the faith system that the two Mikes and I fall with is Christianity, because it works, because you get a perspective from what God is doing. People always want to tell, well, I don't know what God's will is. I go, God's will is for you to be conformed like Jesus Christ, where you can tune in his voice and then walk towards the voice. Like you said, well, it doesn't mean you're going to win, but
it does not. I don't want anybody to hear me say that and go, oh, well, he says that, he's going to win. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I was obedient. I can tell you 2 days before we were at a function, and I'd made my decision up. I'm not running. I said, honey, I ain't running. I'm not running. She goes, okay, well, I support you. I said, I'm not doing it. I said it probably 30 times. She goes, I heard you the first time.
I love wife.
So the next day I wake up and I'm uneasy. I'm anxious. I'm starting to get phone calls again from people that are asking me, are you doing this? Are you doing this? And man, just didn't. So the peace came when I finally made the decision. But I have to tell you, it was in the 11th hour. It was in the 11th hour.
We serve a God that enjoys this.
Yeah.
I think he's got a crooked smile.
I think
when we say, I'm not doing it, he says and goes, that's okay.
And over the course of time, I've been in forums and debates, and I've, educated myself on some different things. And I can see myself transitioning into the next thing. And the same be true when I first came in as a sheriff. As a law and order guy, that's what I stand for. I believe in law and order. I think our country is out of control. We need a law and order guy who understands.
That's an understatement.
We're going to get into that on the new show, Mike and Tom. We're going to get into that.
So I'll step back from that just a little bit. But coming in as the sheriff, you didn't want me as a sheriff as a 25-year-old deputy or a 35-year-old investigator or a 40-year-old captain. I wasn't ready for it, right? But when I came into the position of sheriff, there's a lot of politics surrounding that, a lot of legislation surrounding that, dealing with the governor's office, attorney general's office. You're an elected official. And people, really need to understand that as the elected sheriff, you deal with a lot of things. And this last year, I was elected to be the president of the California State Sheriff's Association. I've been the president for all the sheriffs in the state of California.
And what a lofty position that is, because you guys have to deal with a lot.
We do. We push back on a lot. Donnie Youngblood had been the president in times past, and I'd learned from him. He's a great mentor. But we face a lot of things that the average citizen and public does not see.
Can I ask you a question about that one?
Sure.
So
you want to hold that to Mike and Tom's show, or you?
I'll hold it.
Okay. You might forget it. You might want to write it down.
Well, so there again, we're going to do. There again, we got 4 shows that we're doing with Sheriff Boudreaux.
I am going to write it down.
Yeah, I would.
Well, why wouldn't you do that for me before the show? We do this all the time.
He thought about it on the cuff.
No, exactly.
Yep.
But then why wouldn't you just say, Tom, you're right. I should write some things down.
Well, I'm writing them down now.
Okay, well, I guess
doing it. He's writing it down.
Yeah, well, so as you're,
invite Mike back more often.
Oh my! Well,
you got it.
One of the blessings that you're making for me through this running for Congress, you and I get to know each other.
Sure,
that's a blessing for me.
No, I love it.
And familiarity, I think, is sometimes what God really wants us to do with other people and allow people in our lives. So as you're walking through this, and you've told yourself you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Your wife has said, I heard you say that, which wives are golden when they...
Look, I heard you the first 30 times you said it. And so as we finally made the decision, she tells me, I call her and I said, look, we're doing this. And she says, I feel peace. She says, I feel peace. It's the right thing to do. And so we did it. And I'll tell you, I've come across so many great people. I've influenced, and others have influenced me in such a great way. And if for nothing else, I'll tell you that we actually had gotten to a forum. And I was talking to this lady and her friend. And this one was unsaved. This one was saved. We were talking about God. And I had did a news interview where I said we need God back in this country. And the news reporter actually said, well, which God? And I said, oh, my goodness, I can't believe that was said. I said, the one true and living God, right? And I said, this country was not founded on Buddha. This country was founded on God. And I tell the George Washington story. They didn't print that. But
of course they didn't.
But the point being, so I'm talking to these two, and I tell that story about God. And this lady on this side says, I've been trying to talk her into becoming a Christian and accepting the Lord. And I sat there and started talking with her,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, "How about we do it right now?"
Ooh.
Yeah, we have 400 people in this room.
Mm-hmm.
They're all talking politics. We're in a side corner drinking water, bringing her to the Lord. And I tell you, I put my hands on both her shoulders. I led her to the Lord, and I told my wife, I says, if for no other reason,
Yes,
was that moment for that lady, and it may not be that I win. It may be that we needed that young lady to come to the Lord.
You know, Mike,
and I still feel that.
This is why I do believe God's given you a position. I'm just going to jump in here. And you've got a shepherd's heart. You know, a lot of people ask me about being in the ministry. What does that mean? I said, well, I don't know what it all means because my academia doesn't qualify me. My calling qualifies me.
Right.
My academia is in computer science.
Yeah.
So I tell people that people need to have people in their lives because God refers to us as sheep. Mm-hmm. Those aren't you grew up ranching.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They aren't the brightest animals that God has created, right?
Right.
And so sheep needs a shepherd. Mm-hmm. So I love it that you're there in the county of Tulare able to shepherd those young deputies under you.
We have, I'll tell you, I'm so pleased every time. We have a lot of believers in law enforcement.
Yeah.
We have a lot of believers in the fire service.
That we do. That's what I love about the professions because I think it draws some people to those professions because there's not a lot of people that, if they don't know where their eternity is destined, are willing to lay their life on the line.
I tell you, we hear story after story of people who are working, men and women in uniform that are believers that minister unto those who they are serving. I mean, the stories are, and I believe this. I believe God's putting people in those positions.
Oh, I do now, and that's why I love the fact that you're running for Congress. We have a guy that helps. He's a host on our shows, Mike Green. He lost his arm in Iraq, and he will tell you. I asked him one time on a show. I go, "So there's no unbelievers in foxholes?" He goes, "Not for that moment.
Not for that moment."
When the bullets go flying. I asked, was that a real moment?
Yeah.
Because
well, it's kind of like the old joke that says, you're driving around the parking lot looking for a parking spot. You've heard this one. Lord, if you just open up a parking spot for me, I promise I'll pray 3 times on Sunday and I'll serve the community. If you can just open up a parking space, I need to get inside. And about that time, a car backs out and the parking spot opens up. And he goes, never mind, Lord, I found one. So for that moment,
it's real.
It's real.
It's real. Right? No, I got this now. I love that. So as your wife now talks you into it, and she didn't talk you into it. She was already knowing that you're going to make that decision because she's praying. My wife nowadays, I don't know about you. There again, we should have your wife on.
We should.
She sitting over there with the marriage class. We need to have Mike and his wife on because when my wife nowadays, she's been married to me for almost 30 years now, and she doesn't fight with me anymore. I go, what are you gonna do? She goes, I'm gonna go pray. And I go, oh, don't do that. You've already won. Yeah. Let's keep this going a little longer.
We don't fight either. I mean, we just don't. I mean, we
the conviction. Conviction usually falls.
Yeah.
And
we don't let ourselves go to bed angry. The Bible talks about that.
You know, when people put, and that's why we're pretty passionate about a faith system we have, which is Christianity, because I believe it works. And hearing your stories, it's a working element in your life. You know, you're able to, the story you were telling us offset, you're able to be involved with something just minutes after a crime was committed, and you were on it before it was reported. And you know, when people hear those stories, I have to say those are miracle moments.
They're miracle moments.
And as you're allowing God to do that in your life, and you're there with a forum of people, and you're leading a woman to the Lord because it's the right thing to do, and that's why you're called in those moments. The Bible said, to those who are given much, much more will be given.
Sure.
And so you being out there being faithful. So
in that moment, it was all about politics. I had to tell my story, and there was people everywhere. And that particular day was at Seven Oaks, Bakersfield. That day was to shake hands with people and introduce yourself. I spent my time with those 2 ladies because I could see she was going to come to the Lord. I didn't care about anything else that was going on around me. Matter of fact, I was late to get up to where I was supposed to speak because I was doing it. I said, okay, I'll be there in a minute. And so we shoot up, and then I give my speech and I leave. And then I tell her, I say, angels are worshiping and cheering in heaven because your soul has been saved. And she goes, but I don't feel anything. I said, you may not feel anything, but trust me, you're going to see the Lord.
Wake up tomorrow morning and just walk in obedience. Wake up the next morning and walk in obedience.
And that's not as easy as it sounds.
Well, I tell people, because being in the ministry is something that like when you're around other sheriffs, you converse. When us being in the ministry, we converse. But people will come to me and goes, hey, I accepted Christ. My life didn't get better. I go, I'm not sure where in the Bible you saw that was going to happen. I just read the opposite. Jesus said, hey, in the world, you're going to have troubles, but take great joy. I've overcome the world. So I just tell them, I go, I get what you're saying. I know what you're wanting to happen, but just trust me. Keep walking in obedience, and you're going to come to a point where the joy of the Lord is going to be your guard.
Well, and it's, as we say that, it's easier to say walk in obedience than it is to walk in obedience. Even just today, I had to stop and say, Lord, I'm sorry, I'm a sinner. I mean, I am constantly on the phone with God.
But isn't that what we're supposed to do?
We have to.
When people don't understand that, they always think, oh, they're perfect. I guess they're
Not
so
perfect.
far from it. But at least we have a faith system that allows us to recalculate, to re-navigate, get back on track, and know that, hey, that was the moment I needed. So whatever I got off track with, whatever it was, I went to the Lord, and he basically heard my story, and now I'm moving off with no guilt, knowing I'm forgiven for what I just confessed. And that's hard for some people to accept, but that's why I tell them Christianity is a relationship, not a religion. And Jesus wants to be, as Johnny Rizzo says, your homie.
Well, story after story that I can tell throughout my career. I've been here 38 years, and not every story is a great story, but there are great stories.
There are.
And so for me and my brother, I know my brother has gotten stories as well, and I have some pretty deep stories that maybe we should share offset. Might be a little too hard for people to handle, but we without God in my life, our family's life, and I've had my ups and downs. I've had my time where I separated from God and came back, but I can tell you that things are always better when I get right back and talking to God.
Well, I tell people I lived 34 years without God. I'm almost at 34 years with God, and the last 34 are better.
They're way better.
way better, and I was younger. And so to compare it, I just tell people, hey, it works. So as your voice does get louder, because it's going to get louder, because is it March the 1st?
March 5th is the primary, and then this one's really weird because March 5th is the primary to go to the general in November to run for the 25-26 year. But there's a special election immediately after on the 19th. The winner of the 19th goes on to finish his term, McCarthy's term, until January.
It'll be like 3 months?
It'll be 6 months, 7 months, something like that.
Wow. So could you win both?
You can. Well, no. The first one, March 5th. So I always put it this way. There's this
is educating me.
There's category A and there's category B. So let's just talk about category A. So category A, March 5th primary, top two candidates were the Republican or Republican Democrat, doesn't matter, the highest number getters in March. They go to the general in November. The winner of November, top of the two guys, somebody's going to get more than 50%. That wins the congressional seat for the year 25-26, 2-year term. Now category B. Category B is separate than category A. Category B, the people running in the special election, whoever gets the top 50 plus 1, they win, finish McCarthy's term for 24. Okay? Whoever, if they don't come out with a front runner 50 plus 1, meaning 50% plus a smidgen, whoever doesn't come out with that, the top two go to May. The winner in May takes over in June to finish out the 24 season. But the winner on May 19th doesn't necessarily mean they're the winner on November.
Wow.
That's complicated.
It is.
So somebody,
it's a mess.
There's a good chance somebody could come in and screw it up for you.
Yep.
And then you have to
chance.
You get to fix it.
But you could win both.
You could. Well, no. You can. You can win both.
You can win both A and B.
Yes. You
Got it.
Wow.
You can win both.
Well, that's why we gotta.
But you can also win in March 5th. Someone else can win on the 19th, and the 19th doesn't necessarily mean that those are the people who are going to November. Only March 5th goes to November.
I know. We'll have to talk to Kevin about that.
Yeah. That's a match. I don't know, you're making my head spin.
Yeah, but I'm glad you know it, because it is a very important race.
It is.
I mean, as I like it that you and Kevin know each other, and he's a personal friend, and I think that no, this is going to be for the Tom and Mike show, so we're going to bait you for that show, because I got a little deeper question here. So as your voice gets louder, and I what's so neat is you've got a supporting wife. And tell us what that means for you, because I always try to explain it to my wife, and my wife says, well, you're supposed to say that. And I go, honey, I don't, because I know you are my completer. You are. You're not my completer, but you're my completer. And and coming from my heart, I don't know if my wife's supposed to understand that, because she's driven by different chemicals than I am. but as a man, I need that. And you talk to so many men out there that you may not think that, but I think God's design was for man and wife, Adam and Eve, anybody after that, to go through this life as one flesh.
Well, for me, when the world's against you, she's there for me.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what's going on. Doesn't matter what people say about me. And being a sheriff, I got some people that don't necessarily like me, and they lie. And they lie.
And they can do it. And they can do it and look right in the camera and say it.
Well, the best place to lie is social media.
Yes, it is.
There's no accountability there.
No.
I don't care what people say or do. My wife is there.
Yes.
And when I've got my best friend, when I have my family, it's not the same. My wife will do anything for me.
And she'll do anything, even come to a point to let you realize that what you were saying, I'm not going to run. It's probably not her feeling, but she's like, okay, honey.
Well, she told me, she goes, you're going to run. and I said, well, we got to pray about it. She goes, well, you're going to run. And so when I told her that night, and I said, look, I'm not running. She goes, okay. I said it over and over again, trying to convince her.
She's a good wife. That's awesome wife.
So she's been very supportive. There's been some challenges because, for me, I'm the dad who's there for my kids' practices. I'm the dad who takes the other kids to games, and I'm the dad who wants to be there. And as sheriff, I've had the luxury of being able to do that. And quite frankly, I have a great job. I didn't look a step away from this job. I've got a job, and I love my job, and it's something that I've been raised to do. But now I believe that there's a calling for a next level. And what I believe is that God is calling people all over this country to get into position to change America, change the world. I talked to 2 other congressional candidates back east. They called me. They learned I was a believer. They called me. They said the same thing. They said, Mike, praying for you. You pray for us. And we have been. I've been praying for them. They've been praying for me. And does that mean we win? Please, that's not what it means. But what it means is that we're seeking God for guidance. We're believing for America to be changed by the right people. Maybe I'm not the right guy, but whoever is the right guy, I'm praying that person get in there and change America.
And you know what, too, Sheriff, is that we don't have to know the full picture. And I think that's the piece of following God. We know where we end up for eternity, and we know that we're on the right track because you're being led by the Spirit. You've got so many testimonies from your career and this. And I even think there's some witnessy test, because I love Moses. I love Moses' discussion with the burning bush. You don't understand. I can't do this.
Right.
This has got to be a comical moment at one point.
Well, it has to be.
It's like, he's like, no, I can't speak. Okay, we'll take Aaron. He's looking for that excuse that's going to convince God to change his mind. And you are saying, hey, I'm in it because I feel God's called me in it. And I don't know where I'm going to end up in this journey.
Don't know where I'm going.
But it's going to encourage others. It's going to build others up, and it's going to also strengthen you in your relationship with the Lord and your wife's and people around you. And you're gonna get to go places and do things in conversations that you've never.
No, it's already been happening. I've come across people and we've had conversations and I've grown already. Just what I pray is that whoever's supposed to be in this seat, that God puts the right person there. It may not, I feel like that I'm making a good step forward. I feel like that I'm I feel like I'm the most prepared and qualified candidate. But does that mean that that's who God's going to choose? Doesn't. There's a lot of people in the course of history that God chose that we didn't think were the people that were the ones.
Right.
And so, we'll just see how that pans out.
Well, I do love the humility in that. I do love the fact that you're submitted to God. And I think God has given you, wherever that ends up being from now till 20 years from now,
Sure.
God's given you an anointing and a platform to speak into other people's lives.
I'm thankful for that, and I believe it to be true as well.
Well, gosh, we want to end up this session of Ministry Matters, and we've heard where Sheriff Boudreaux
Very good.
Good job.
All of us know it, but you.
His voice is loud in the area that he's going, but he's still got a platform where he's at. And I really love the fact that you said, I love my job.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Not looking for another one, but God is having me step out and stretch us. And I always tell it, and I love the fact that you like to work out, is faith is like a muscle.
Yep.
It has to be put under stimulation greater than it's been to grow. And so there again, you guys, thank you for liking us. Share us, because I do believe we're putting out an important message. Others need to hear what Mike here has been going through with his faith journey.
That's right.
And some of you need to step out in obedience also.
Amen.
As human beings, not as Christians. I'm going to go above that. As human beings, I think everyone should be this way. If it's biblical. We are called to think of one way, and it's in Philippians 4:8. We're called to dwell on whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is honorable, whatever has good repute, whatever is lovely, whatever is worthy of excellence, whatever is worthy of praise. That's where our minds should stay at all the time.
Wow, we would have never believed this. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Google. Go out there and listen to us. So we're excited about it. We're glad you're excited about it too.
All right, everyone. Welcome back with my boy Mike Harvey, the owner, the producer.
The owner.
None of this can stand.
I think God's the owner, but he's entrusted me to be a steward.
You're right, but your name's on everything.
I'm the one whose head's on the line.
And you're managing it right now.
Technically, yeah.
That's a lot of stress.
That's interesting you say that. It can be, but I shared with you on our last podcast. Once you kind of be in business for a while, you realize be in business. What am I, ghetto? Once you're in business for a while,
you are ghetto,
right? I spent too much time around you. You realize the stress is never going to stop. You just got to learn okay, this is just how life is. Period. And really, I say that as a business owner, but I don't know that it's just business owners. I just think that you might have it to a different level, because if you're not signing someone's paycheck, you're responsible for yourself either way, but if you're responsible for other people, it's a whole different level of responsibility.
Yeah, they don't eat. It's on you. That's messed up, dude.
For sure.
You fail people.
So anyway, we wanted to bring you Covenant Coffee. We talk to you guys about this all the time. Hope in a Cup. They're over there on Chester Avenue. Have you been there, Johnny?
I have.
Good
bomb
coffee. Yeah, it is. My wife loves buying it. Go check it out. But they've got a website. We'll make sure, Josh, can you throw that up on the screen so they can go there? But the coolest thing about Covenant, we talked about this all the time, and you guys don't know, their mission is to provide extended job training and resources for emancipated foster youth. So people that have aged out. So, because a lot of times those are the ones that are forgotten. And statistics on that, if you're a statistics guy, your numbers guy. Prison, drugs, homeless, suicides, pregnancies, abortions, everything else. I mean, it leads to all sorts of problems. And the sad fact is, those guys don't have many role models. So I think Randy Martin's doing a phenomenal job being a role model, phenomenal job taking care of those kids, and he sees it. It is
hard work.
It's something you have to make revenue, right, to continue to support that. But it's a ministry for him. It's not just a business, right?
And I admire that even more. Because being in business, that's already hard enough. But to be in business and have your motto and have your credence to help those that don't have parents,
right?
Yo, that's some good work.
Right.
All right, everyone. So this episode, we're changing it up. Last time we did it on mentoring. Still the same subject because Mike is a creative genius. But this time, what we want to do is shift from the mentoring perspective, which is extremely important. But now we want to go into how do we maximize who we are? At first, I had the title of self-improvement, and we were like, nah. And then I was like, transformation. I was like, nah. Transition, nah.
Self-maximization. Man. I don't know. We'll talk to Ludavia. The Garcia boys are creative, right? They'll help us come up with an answer for that.
This is the goal: is we want to provide information and strategies, resources, not for just those who are barely hanging on, who just need that nugget, but we also want to provide it for those who are like us. Maximum performers, people who are looking to push forward, people who are looking to grind, and always looking for that next strategy in order to maximize who I am.
Yeah.
And the reason why we have guys like Mike on, right, and myself and our Luis Garcia, is because we don't want somebody's opinion out of a book.
Right.
I can't stand book smart people. I can't stand it.
I mean, books are good, right? But comes a time where you got to stop just learning and be a professional learner and be a professional implementer
and grind.
Yeah.
Because you read a ton. It's not against that.
All the time. Every day.
It's the fact that you implement everything that you read. And the fact is that you're going to be talking right now, not from the books that you read, but from the implementation and from the experience that you created from that.
Right, absolutely.
And that's the goal, is to have real life stories of how people put in the work, and now they're going to share their processes with us.
Right. And I think, it's important that we talk about why. And I think everyone's why is slightly different. I think yours and I are aligned. Probably most people that we're going to talk to are going to be aligned, at least to a level. Right. But for me, it's important that I become the best version of myself I can be. But that's not the end game. That's just a means to an end. The end is to make the biggest impact I can make. Number one, for the kingdom of God.
Yep.
Right. Number two, in my family.
Yep.
And number three, for those around me.
Boom. Bro, okay, episode ended. Finished. Done. Fantastic. But it's exactly that. Yeah. Because I think about it like, I want to be optimal. I want to max my performance. But for what? More money? Nah. That won't catch me. Because it's not enough, because it's hard work and it's pain. Sometimes life is so painful, I don't really care about money. Right? But if it's for the kingdom of God, if it's for my family, I don't care about.
Well, we had Tom and I had a guest on a while back, Edward Collins, phenomenal dude. We loved Edward, but he was talking about the value of money, like what's money really worth, and he's like, if someone told you they would give you $1 billion today, but in exchange for that you have to die tomorrow, would you trade that?
No.
Okay, so money isn't the most important thing. What is the most important thing?
Life.
Yeah,
your breath.
What you do with your life. Impact you make,
the
legacy you
Wow, man, dude, that's a great illustration. But it's exactly that, right? We are doing these things. We're trying to live this life. We're trying to be creative. We're trying to be innovative. But for what?
Right.
Right? For the kingdom of God. For those big reasons, because this is the facts. We know this. If your why is strong enough, you will do it.
Right. Well, and if your why is strong enough, you can get to a point where like you have no choice but to do it. And like for me, like the conviction I have of 511 and the mission that we're on to take the gospel, make an impact for the kingdom, make an impact in our society and our culture is so important to me that I would rather die. I would rather stop breathing than to veer off course from that. Right. Because I see the fruit of it. Right. And I screw up a lot. You know me.
Well, if you didn't, I wouldn't like you.
But I mean, when you look at and this is legitimate, right? I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this because I think I do have a level of street cred, but God's blessed me with that.
Yeah.
You look at my marriage. Do we always have a perfect marriage? No, but we get along and we're in love more than we've ever been, right? You look at my kids. I asked my oldest, my son, after wrestling tournament, which he got third place in his wrestling tournament on Saturday. Yeah, I was proud of him. He was proud of himself.
Yeah.
But I said, would you rather go to the beach tomorrow or go to church? He was like, I want to go to church.
Wow.
Like, right answer, bud.
Wow.
I asked my daughter the other night. Adrian Monhe put on a kind of worship night kind of thing, and I asked the family. I said, "Hey, do you guys want to go out to watch a movie, spend some time as a family, or do you want to go to this worship thing?" And without hesitation, my daughter and my two sons are like, "We want to go to worship."
Wow.
And if you look, I shared online just recently. My daughter, she didn't just go to worship, and I'll see you the video, Johnny. But she was actually worshiping right next to her mama.
And for me as a new father, right? My kids are 2 and 3. My daughter's gonna turn 4.
Your kids will be doing the same thing. You're setting the example, bro.
But that's what I want.
Yeah.
If there's a why for me, the why I'm doing things and why I am the man I am now, right? I haven't always been. Nobody has. But why am I pushing forward? Why am I trying to create this impact? It's for my kids.
Right.
And the number one thing that I want them to do is to love God. Mm-hmm. That's the number one thing. So that's what I want. I want to know the men that have done these things.
Yeah.
The men that have used their strategies, and now they're talking like this. They're sharing their stories of their kids worshiping. But most importantly, honestly, my most impressive thing is that you and your wife are still in love.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I care about, because I know the harder thing than raising your kids is staying in love.
So this came up a while back, and I've shared this multiple times. I'm sure I shared it with you about, the impacting time when my wife was like, hey, you need to spend more time at home, and I was working a lot and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I keep...
Those are hard moments, bro.
It was. But I've shared that. I don't have, the time to share that whole story here. Maybe I'll share it in the future, and I'll definitely share it with you. But one of the biggest things for me is the Bible talks about, what good is it to gain the whole world and lose your soul, right? So if I went on and built a company that's worth billions of dollars, but my kids are doing drugs, my kids are hooking up with prostitutes, or hooking up just in general, or
even not talking to you,
or let's take it back a step, because this is just bad in my opinion. Not living for God, don't know God, right?
Oh yeah.
Then I failed.
Yep.
Right? Because what is true success? Because we only have so many years on this earth, but what happens after that lasts a lot longer, right? So one of the things that I want to make a point to do, Johnny, is not just talk about this stuff and theory, or hey, well, look at me, look how special I am, we have great marriage, all this stuff. But I think we can go back and forth, if that's okay. Sorry if I'm taking over. I do this all the time. I love it.
Yeah.
But I think that people watching this, we should give them, and I can give mine, and I'd like to hear yours. 3 to 5, things that they can implement in their life to be able to do the same thing.
Oh yeah. Well, I think me and you can do that today.
Right. No, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
right
we're going to do that right now, because this is the thing is we want actionable strategies.
Exactly.
And I don't want actually, I say this all the time because I do small groups, and I'm not here to entertain you.
Right.
Don't annoy me and be here and entertaining, and whatever I tell you, you just goes out your ear, and then all of a sudden you come back to me with that question. That's what we call annoying.
Right.
I want actionable strategies that you can take home, practical, and practice that right now, and then you get the same result that I've gotten.
Yeah.
Mike, we can go so many different directions. But let's stick with our format. Let's toward the last few minutes. Yeah. Last 10 minutes we'll go there. Okay. The first section, I want you to talk to me a little more about your creativity and innovation.
Okay.
In terms of how you have used that, not only for business, but with your family.
Well, if you know me, the creative one in our family is Ludelia, right?
Okay. Yeah. I'm seeing that now more.
Yeah. She is such a blessing. And it was Vince, our friend Vince. Yeah.
Okay.
Told me a while back, he's like, dude, you don't deserve that woman. He's like, God just hooked you up. And he's absolutely right. Right. He was just teasing me, right?
He's right.
But he was right,
Oh.
And I'm sure he'd say the same thing about Melissa, right?
They say that to me all the time. It's
yeah.
messed up. It hurts my feelings every time.
It's probably true, right? But I mean, the thing is, my dad
made a point to really pound into my head when I was young, like the importance of the person you marry.
Yeah.
Right? So I think for a young man, that, you know, at you know, some of these guys' age that are in this room with us, that will be the thing that will make or break you, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you could say
It's
that,
real
right?
talk.
Because I mean,
Real talk.
is it optimist for me to say that, you know, you've been through that?
No.
Yeah.
Everything's on limits, baby.
Right. Okay. So so you know what a negative influence can be, and you know what a positive influence can
I
be.
know what it feels like to have a failed marriage.
Yeah.
And to feel the pain.
Right. And you went through it and it jacked you up, right?
And it did, you know, again, like you're saying, is the relationship can either be your Achilles heel,
Yeah.
or it can be the giant that you're standing on.
Yeah, absolutely. So you asked me about creativity and what was the other word you used? Innovation. So I think, and I shared this on my last podcast, I actually took the quote, and somebody asked me, I was on a call today, it's funny, but I took a quote because I was like, that was good. And what I said was, you know, some of our biggest blessings come when your back's against the wall.
Yeah.
And when your back's against a wall is, I think, a lot of times when you could be the most creative. And I think that can be a controversial statement. Like, right?
It's real. That's real.
Because you got to figure out how to get out of the spot, right? So what are you going to do to make ends meet, or to just be able to continue on, or continue doing what you're doing, right? And I've been blessed to be able to continue in business. And we have our ups and downs. We always have. I think in life in general, you will have that.
Having a day.
Right. Exactly. But for me to be able to have been in business for myself, and have a team for better part of almost 20 years.
Wow.
You know, what exactly is the question?
You know what? I think you already gave me something huge.
Okay.
You know what? I think what we've established here, and I think we need to establish this, to really invoke your creativity, your innovation, and those neurotransmitters that you need. We got to take risks and not be afraid to have our backs against the wall, because you know why? Creativity and innovation can't occur without a problem, right?
Yeah. Right.
You have to have something that doesn't happen, that doesn't exist yet. There's an issue that's going on, and you have to create something new in order to supplement, in order to produce, whatever it may be. So I think one of the points that I like that you're making is we can't be afraid to have our backs against the wall. We can't be afraid to have that type of stress.
Right.
We can't be afraid to have those type of moments.
Right. Well, I just happen to be someone that I work better under pressure, and that's probably part of the ADHD thing.
Well, you know what it's a part of? You work better with adrenaline.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't. But if you those back to the wall
if I don't feel pressure,
moments,
I'm like do.
And those back to the wall moments is when you really have the most pressure.
Right. But you know, like, okay, so let's get tactical for a second.
Yeah.
You can create those in your own life without necessarily having to be forced into it. You can create them for yourself, right? So one of the ways that I do that, you ever read, and if you haven't, you need to, a book called Profit First.
No.
Mike Michalowicz. Okay. So it's a big thing in the accounting world, a big thing in the business world. Basically, it's like, as soon as you get your money in the bank, take profits off the top instead of waiting and taking what's left.
Well, I like
right?
that. I like that idea.
So what that does is, most business owners, I'm one of them, will say, how much money do I have in my bank account? Okay, that's what I have to spend, right?
Okay.
Regardless of whether or not that's true.
Yeah.
It's a stupid way of thinking, you know, but I'm never
It's real, though.
the smartest guy in the room.
True. I like that.
But so what I'll do is I'll take the money off the top, and then I'm like, well, I got to work with whatever's left. And sometimes I'm like, that forces me to get creative. That forces me to, okay, how am I going to do this with only being able to do this? And I know in the back of my mind, okay, I do have a safety net, but I'm not going to use that safety net.
You compartmentalize that. You're not going to touch it. You have discipline.
Right.
You have
Well, it's not
discipline.
even discipline. It's like out of sight, out of mind. You know?
Yeah, that's brilliant. But because of that, you create your own situations where you invoke that stress, which gives those creative neurotransmitters that you need. Hey, but you know what? On the flip side, though, see, I got to get close to the microphone. On the flip side, though, this is something that's not creative, is at times we can make continuous bad decisions.
Yeah.
And end up with our backs against the wall. And essentially, that's not where we want to be, because that's where you're trying to get creative in order to just get back to baseline.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard to find that balance because, entrepreneurs in general are inherently risk takers. 90% of them. I don't know what the percentage is statistically, but they're risk takers, right? But to even be able to go out on your own and be like, oh, I'm going to make
takes so much guts, dude.
Right. You have to be a risk taker, right? Some are more so than others. Yeah. I probably happen to be higher on that spectrum of risk taker.
I can see that.
Yeah, you knew me growing up. But, you have to take risks to be in business. And so you talk about making stupid decisions, and sometimes you just need that voice of reason in your life too. So I have several of those.
Yeah.
But you got to figure out how to strike that balance.
When you're in those back to the wall moments, what strategies do you do to not self-destruct? Because those back to the wall moments, I like that we're there, because those are vital. I know many people who will just self-destruct.
Mm-hmm.
How did you not self-destruct?
That's a really good question.
I know.
That's what I said. Yeah, it is. So really good question. Okay, and I have a few answers for that. Number one is having God in my life, right? Have a good relationship with the Lord.
Your foundation.
Yeah, and so I'll get in the Word and I'll get in worship. But number two, and this is just as important, or maybe not just as important, but pretty close, is having good mentors in my life, right? And I remember. I had one of the pastors that we're associated with. I don't know if you know Pastor Benito Fresquez.
I don't.
From Freedom in Brown Rock.
Mm-hmm.
He asked me a question one time, and it was a rhetorical question. It wasn't necessarily, we were just having a conversation, and he said, what is it you turn to when you're stressed out, or you have a bad day, or you have anxiety or whatever? Like, is it drugs? Is it alcohol? Is it porn? Is it running around?
All those things sound so fun, huh?
Yeah, I mean, not to me anymore, but yeah, I yeah. But or is it Jesus?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to be able to always honestly say that the answer is Jesus. So I have a good support system. I have good mentors. I have good peers. I have good friends. I have people to lift me up. I have people I can talk to. And that's not always easy to come by, because there's been a lot of times in my life where I did feel like I didn't have anyone to talk to. And that's why your profession is so important and vital, right? Because you need someone to talk to.
Oh my God.
And sometimes you don't have anybody. You got to pay them.
I was going to say this, because people self-destruct when they don't have somebody to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first strategy.
That's mental health, right?
Yeah, that's the first strategy to not self-destruct in those moments, is to have strong people around you.
Right.
Especially having them as believers.
Well, and I've even had, not even that long ago, and it wasn't like a crazy moment or anything, but I was traveling with Tom, and we were on a business trip, and he said, hey, we need to talk about this and blah blah blah, and he's like, and so we were talking for a second. He's like, wait a second, have you gotten any word today? I was like, no. He's like, go get any word, come back to me.
But this is why I love guys like Tom. This is why I love guys like my dad. Yeah. So old school,
and
but
real.
not old school, but so disciplined.
Yeah.
With their processes.
Yeah.
On going to the Lord first.
Yeah.
So disciplined on how they structure people like me and you, right? Because I'm kind of like you. If anything, I'm a little crazy.
Yeah, right.
I honestly, I look like I'm more composed, and it's because I'm eloquent. But if you were to see me like in my normal life, you'd be like, "Oh, this guy's a savage."
Right?
Right? You'd be like, "Well, how does he not self-destruct and stuff?" But it's the same thing. Like I'm telling you, there's so many times I'm gonna go off on somebody on a phone call. Because I have a temper.
Yeah.
And the reason why I have so many relationships right now? I call my dad before, and he's like, "Nah, don't do it, son."
Yeah.
Don't have that conversation.
Well, one of the things that I've learned also is to bite my tongue.
Yeah.
And a lot of my interactions are over text or over email, and I'm like, I cannot send that right now, or I cannot say that right now, or I cannot make that phone call right now, especially in the heat of the battle in the moment, because if there are very few times where you need to act that fast, right?
Very few.
Most of the time, and this was something my dad taught me, and he was one of my greatest mentors, right?
be patient, take your time, don't get in a rush, because a lot of times things will just work themselves out if you do let it kind of go. So one of the rules that I've lived by for a long time is I can always say something or do something that I haven't said or that I haven't done. I can never unsay or undo hurtful, harmful things, words, deeds, actions, whatever, right?
Wow.
So if I just wait to take that action or to say that thing or to send that email or send that text message, either may end up not sending anything at all, or I may think it through and, be more eloquent about it, or be more intelligent about it, or be more strategic about it, or whatever. Or at the end of the day, hey, you know what? I was right in the first place. I should have trusted my gut and gone with it. It's okay, because I can still do that.
Yeah.
But I can't undo the damage.
Yeah. So, man, those are some major points. So the first point that you have to not self-destruct, having strong people around you, believers.
Yeah.
Second thing is watching what you say.
Yeah.
Watching that tongue. Is there another strategy you use?
Good question. I'm trying to think this in real time. Like, what do I do to not self-destruct? I mean, really, I think it's about the relationship with God, the relationship with others, and then relationship with yourself. So relationship,
self-awareness.
Self-awareness. And I think I shared this with you before on our last podcast. Is I spent a year, maybe a year plus, in a little mini mastermind group that I created myself.
Yeah.
With people that were very, very different from me. So have you studied DISC profiles?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm high D, high I.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But the entire rest of the group, 4 other people, were all SEs. Right?
Okay.
So very polar opposite of me.
Yeah.
But I spent that time and I said, tell me what I don't see, because I need to see my blind spots, because I need to understand myself better. And over time, and also maturity, and have good mentors and other things, I've gained a lot more self-awareness. I was careful to say more, because I wouldn't say I gained a lot of self-awareness. I've gained a lot more self-awareness. There's still plenty of time. I got a message from somebody the other day. They're like, hey, I worked for you 10 years ago, and I've been mad at you ever since. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And I have no idea what they're mad about.
Oh, man. That's it, though. Because the first thing, because
you might have to edit that part out.
No, I think it's good. No, the main part that we got to remember when it comes to being creative, when it comes to being innovative, is you got to have a problem, and that problem, sometimes the bigger the problem is, the more creative you're going to be. But the thing is when you're having those creative moments, where your back's against the wall, actually, that's when I've seen people just crumble. Well, but I've also seen people rise, and what you're saying is similar to what I've seen with those people. Many of them anchored with God. So when that moment came, they didn't all of a sudden feel defeated. They were able to hand that over to God. They would become present with the Creator. They would have just used prayer as a maximum resource.
Yeah.
But then they have people around them, right? Coaching them, teaching them, talking to people that have been there, people that we respect, pushing, right?
Well, another thing that you kind of made me think of as you're saying that is, this is another thing that I was blessed. I think God's really had a hand on me all my life. Right? I talked to someone the other night they had a little movie night at the church. I talked to one of the guys about praying grandmas. Right? I guarantee you had a praying grandma too.
Oh man.
And the power of having that praying grandma. And I said, because I was blessed to have God in my life and a desire for God and the presence of the Lord in my life from a very young age, even though the fact that we didn't go to church as a family, I had a desire to go to church. But I was blessed because I remember learning this, I think it was probably in high school or something. And I remember the moment when it clicked in my head. I think it was Old Oak Ranch. You remember Old Oak Ranch?
You do? Oh, yeah.
And
my brother got kicked out of there.
I believe it. Reza was, of course it did. So I remember talking to somebody else. I was, dealing with some stuff, and it was stupid, like high school, like,
still drama
at that age, right?
Yeah.
But I remember I was kind of upset and feeling down or whatever, and I talked to somebody else, and they were having bigger problems than me, and I was like, you know what? If we would just look at the people around us, so I learned this at a young age, and it still holds true to this day. You know this as a psychologist. If you look at the people around you, 99% of people have way bigger problems than you do. And if you would quit, having a pity party, woe is me, and realize,
my minuscule little problems aren't that big. I'm not trying to say that, we don't go through stuff and we shouldn't get help. We shouldn't try to get out of it. But when you realize, like, in the whole scheme of things, at least for me, because I've been blessed to have a pretty good life, frankly, in the whole scheme of things, my problems are so trivial and insignificant. And I look at trying to help other people, like, and I think Ron's spoken about this before too. The more you focus on trying to help other people, it's like God just takes care of, like, the things you're dealing with.
And that, I think that's what we need in order to influence our self-awareness.
Yeah.
It's really just look around.
Yeah.
Right. Look around at it around you, because you're going to see a lot bigger problems. And when you see those bigger problems, you're going to realize what you have is a really good thing. And, most people don't realize this, is most of our psychological pain comes from perspective.
Yeah.
Just comes from your
or lack of.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
You alter your perspective. Guess what? I've seen people have instant freedom because they change their perspective. They no longer see that situation for what it is, but they had to change that self-awareness. All right, we got like 1 more minute.
Well, we can go over. It's my show.
Oh yeah.
So another little nugget that I was thinking about as you're saying that, and I think this is just an added bonus nugget. Most people see other people that are butt heads to them or jerks or come at them or whatever, and I think one thing that I got out of just running the IT company, because you deal with people that are just like, they're frustrated, they're mad, like they're dealing with their technology.
That's all you deal with.
I get frustrated, but I'm dealing with my technology.
Technology's a pain. I almost said the B word.
Yeah. Right. But I realize this isn't just for that. This is across the board. Once you can step out of that and realize, like, 99% of the time, there's always that 1%, right? 99% of the time, whenever someone's being a jerk, or you think, oh, do they like me, or why were they mean to me, or whatever, it has nothing to do with you, right? And when you can have that realization, that self-awareness, that even if it does have something to deal with me, either it's something I can fix or it's something I can't. And if it's something I can fix, then I'll take care of it. And if it's something I can't, then I just got to give it to God, right?
That's it.
But if you can have the realization that 99% of the time it has nothing to do with you, then instead of getting mad or getting our feelings hurt or feeling sad or whatever, you actually end up feeling sorry for the other person to a level, or at least like, can I help them, or what can I do? And I remember having a conversation with somebody. I try to leave out some details because I have a lot of conversations that are confidential, as I'm sure you do.
Oh, say them all.
Say
them all, bro. I'm good.
But I remember having a conversation with somebody. And I was like, first of all, it probably has nothing to do with you. And from what you're telling me, I kind of feel sorry for the person.
Yeah.
Because, what does their home life look like?
Yep.
They're probably miserable.
Yeah.
And when you can have those realizations that it has nothing to do with me, they're being a jerk because of them, not because of me. That's a them problem, not a me problem. It gives you the heart compassion of Christ,
And I think I'm going to end it with this, man. I've said it before. As human beings, not as Christians. I'm going to go above that. As human beings, I think everyone should be this way. It's biblical. We are called to think of one way, and it's in Philippians 4:8. We're called to dwell on whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is honorable, whatever has good repute, whatever is lovely, whatever is worthy of excellent, whatever is worthy of praise. That's where our minds should stay at all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if we do that, it doesn't matter what position we're in, we're going to have that hope, we're going to have that creativity, and we're going to have that innovation to do anything that we set our minds on. As long as we really have a strong mindset, self-awareness, a mindset based on God, self-awareness, and people around us to really push us forward.
Yeah, that's right. Wow. Amen.
Brilliant, man. All right, everyone. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, put my picture, Mike's picture on something. Love us.
If you enjoyed it, leave a review and let us know that too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Peace with some chicken grease.